Hi, everybody. Sarah here again. And this time I want to talk about Stranger Things Season 5, Episode 7, titled The Bridge. It starts out right away with Max waking up from her coma, now trance. I guess I'll just call it a coma trance. And when she wakes up, there's a very, nice little emotional scene between her and Lucas reuniting and them both being so glad that she's back to the real world. But of course, Max now has to be confined to a wheelchair because all this time that she's been in her coma, her muscles have become weak. So now she needs to be confined to a wheelchair till she obviously can rebuild her muscles back up and all that. And this is, of course, right after the Demogorgon attack is concluded. And Vicky shows up and says, look, you guys got to keep moving. The police are going to figure out where you are and track you down. We need to get out of here. And during that time, Eleven and company also show up. And Max tells them that when she left Holly, Holly was going to go to the Upside Down and go to her house and wait there for us to come get her. So we need to go find a gate so we can go to the Upside Down and retrieve her before anything bad happens. But in order to do that, they realize that they're going to have to move one of the big steel plates that's covering one of the gateways into the Upside Down. And that's where we leave them. Then we check back in with Erica, who went and got Mr. Clark to help her build a triangulation device to find Dustin. So her, Mr. Clark, and Murray have been working on that, and they were able to locate his location in the Upside Down. So they go to the triangulation point, and the idea is that they'll contact Dustin, tell him to go get Holly, and then they can all return back to the real world. We go back to the hospital again. Mrs. Wheeler stays behind because she's still recovering from her injuries, and so she stays behind in the hospital. And the rest of the group actually hooks up with Erica and Mr. Clark and Murray, and they're at the triangulated spot. They use a radio. They contact Dustin. But of course, Dustin's radio is not working very well from his fight with Steve in the earlier episodes. So the antenna doesn't quite work right. So when they do use the radio, it's very kind of broken up and crackly. But they're able to talk to him, and they tell him to go get Holly, and then they'll be there to get them all out. But a misunderstanding takes place with all the crackling of the radio and stuff. Dustin tries to tell them Holly's not here with us. And then Robin thinks that Dustin says that they have Holly with them. So they're like, yay, Holly's already there. We just got to go through the gateway, grab them, and everything's good. So they go to one of the lesser guarded locations where these steel plates are covering the gateways. And they have to disable some surveillance cameras. Eleven's able to use her powers to move one of the gates. They go into the Upside Down. They reunite with Steve, Dustin, Nancy, and Jonathan. And Nancy is like, where's Holly? They both think each other knows what's going on with Holly. So speaking of Holly, let's go to where she's at. As we saw at the end of the last episode, a portal kind of opened up for Holly, and presumably she went through it. But when she went through it, she actually woke up in Vecna's world where he's got this thing set up where they have her trapped in with like a feeding tube or whatever. So Holly wakes up. She's able to escape out of what's binding her to the wall. And she runs out of there, and it's in Vecna's desert world that he's created. So she's running out there, and she remembers Max told her she just needs to find a way to open a gate. And so she stops and she starts digging in the ground, and she finds a gateway. She goes through it, but as she goes through it, she just starts falling from the sky and screaming. And Nancy hears the scream, looks up, sees Holly falling, and then Holly kind of stopping in midair and Vecna pulling her back up through the gateway that she just went through. And they know that it's Vecna that's been doing this. And we see that Holly has been brought back to Henry's house with the other kids. And the other kids are immediately telling her Max is just like, she's caused trauma to you and she's been lying to you. She's convinced you that she's not the monster. She's really the monster. Henry's really a good guy. And Derek is there, and she turns to Derek and says, Derek, tell him the truth. You know what the truth is, that Henry's the bad guy. But Derek, whose family has been threatened by Vecna, is unwilling to do that. And he says, yeah, Henry's a good guy. You're wrong. And so she freaks out and tries to escape. And of course, Vecna stops her using his powers. He yanks on her necklace, which breaks. So she's still trapped in Vecna's mind. So anyway, the team that was in the Upside Down, they all go back to the radio station. And Max is feeling extremely guilty that she didn't save Holly. But Dustin knows where Holly is. He figures out that she is in what is called the Abyss, which is basically this world that Vecna created. It's where Vecna lives. It's where that desert is and all of that stuff, where this big structure that has trapped all the kids is at. And the Upside Down is just the bridge between Vecna's world and Hawkins, the real world. When 11 made contact with the Abyss is when the bridge formed. Hopper asks why are they taking kids, which Will explains is because they have weak minds. He's going to use them to magnify his powers. Well, why does he want to do this? To combine worlds and recreate the world in his image. And they figure out, really through Lucas, figures out that today is like the day that he's going to do it. And so in order to stop this and save the kids, they need to enter the Upside Down and get to the Abyss. And they're all kind of frantically trying to figure out ways to do this. And Steve comes up with a solution saying the radio station exists here and in the Upside Down, since the Upside Down is an exact copy of our world. So if Vecna brings his world down, they just need to wait at the top of the radio tower and basically wait for like the Upside Down radio tower to come down to them. And then 11 would be able to tap into Vecna's mind and kill him. And 11 says, look, I have never done that before. I don't know if I could do that. And Nancy comes up with the suggestion of, there's a lab, the lab in the Upside Down is exactly like the one here. Why don't you go into the deprivation tank in the Upside Down, and then that will enable you to destroy Vecna. And 8 agrees to this plan to go along and help out. Once 11 and 8, they'll pull Max in to be able to guide them through so that they can at least cause a distraction for Vecna to stop combining the worlds. And that'll give enough time for the others to plant a bomb in the Upside Down, thus completely destroying the Upside Down and breaking the connection between the Abyss, Vecna's home, and Hawkins. While everybody's off going out to get all the supplies and do all the setup they need to do to carry out this plan, Will and Max are sitting having a conversation, and they both kind of feel useless. Max is feeling guilty about Holly. Will is feeling guilty about the fact that Vecna was able to get to him and get information that led him to trying to kill Max and all of that. So he feels like he needs to stay away from all of this because he doesn't want Vecna to capture him again and learn everything about this plan that they're going to put into place. But Max says, look, you're strong. You saved me from killing him. I don't think you need to worry about it that much. And she tells him how she was able to found the cave that he's afraid to enter. And that's how she survived all this time, because even though Vecna is this big scary monster, he still is a human being somewhere in there. So then we go back to Steve and Dustin, and this is kind of their final scene where they really finally put everything to bed and really make up as friends. You know, Steve apologizes for being angry at him and saying all the bad things he did about Eddie. He does feel that Eddie was a hero, and he's sorry about all the stuff that he said, and they realize that they kind of miss being friends, and so they make up and are best friends again. So that's a nice little scene there, kind of touching moment. It closes the book on their tension that they had going on this season. While Erica and Mr. Clark go off to do recon on the base, 8 and 11 and Murray go back to the box truck that we saw in earlier episodes. 11 needs to use her power to flip it back upright because it was laying on its side or upside down or something. And so while Murray's tinkering around with the truck to get it running again, because their plan is to all load up in the back of the truck and Murray's going to drive to the military base and just drive through the gate into the Upside Down. And while Murray is tinkering around with the truck, 8 and 11 kind of connect consciousness and have a conversation. And 8 is like, killing Henry isn't going to stop this from happening. Even if you kill Kate, the military wants our blood, wants to continue to do these experiments, and this cycle is just going to keep continuing. These experiments are going to keep happening. We need to not only destroy Vecna, we need to sacrifice ourselves. We need to get, once everybody's out of the Upside Down and the bomb is ready to go, we need to hang back and let ourselves be destroyed so this cycle of experimentation can end. And then Murray's got the truck fixed, so they go to pick everybody up to carry out the mission. And we go back to the radio station, and Will decides that now is the time for him to come out. That he pulls his mother aside and he's like, I want to, have a little discussion with you. But Mike interrupts because Murray arrives and Murray's going to be here in a few minutes. We need to get ready to go. So Will says, hey, why don't you hang back and, in fact, have everybody come in. So Will has everybody sit down. He comes out to everybody. He cries. Everyone is really accepting, which in the late 80s, I don't know if everyone would be as accepting as they show in the show, but I think they're all close enough that it's feasible. I don't think it's unrealistic. And he realizes that Vecna was using his fear of coming out against him, and he didn't want that to happen anymore. So he's going to just tell everybody, get that fear of rejection out of the way. He knows now that everybody loves him, that being rejected is a lie. And now he's not afraid, and he wants to go on this mission and be a part of it. He's not going to be afraid anymore. So they drive to the military base. Erica and Mr. Clark, who are up in, I think, like a church tower or something in the city looking down, they rig up a remote to open the military base gate, which Murray just drives through and just guns it and drives into the Upside Down with the truck and everybody into it. And then we cut to Henry, who is now ready to enact his plan of combining the worlds. He's got everybody sitting around a table at his nice little house, and they all hold hands, and he's like, okay, we're going to do this now. We're going to save the world or whatever. So they all hold hands and they go into a trance so that their powers are combined, so that he'll be able to do this combining, and that's where the episode ends. I think it's a very solid episode. I think it could have been shorter. The scene of Will coming out, I think it was important to put that in there, but I think they took too much time with it. I think that scene could have been a lot shorter. There's a lot of parts in the episode of the quote unquote science of like the abyss and the Upside Down and how they connect to each other. So there's a lot of that. Again, these episodes all connect together. So there is no way that you can skip an episode. You have to watch them all. I think the writing could have been a lot tighter. It just felt like there were some things that felt like they were a little padded to kind of make the episode longer that I didn't think were necessary. But I did really like the Dustin and Steve scene where they're able to reconcile. I thought that was really nice. I liked the reasoning as to why Will wanted to come out and that he had the courage to do it. 8 and 11 having to have these dark thoughts that they're going to need to sacrifice themselves to end it. But of course, 11 hasn't really totally decided, but she's seriously considering it because they get this is never going to end as long as they exist, or there's an ability to get their blood and try to carry on these experiments. Anyway, okay, that's all for episode 7. Join me next time for episode 8.